We do 1 week fundraisers, 100% digital, no order forms, no checks, no cashing. All the products are delivered home. So we've elevated the space to like an Amazon model for sports and activity groups. And so for me, people come all the time and say, man, is it scary? What did you do? And I respect and understand that leap to entrepreneurship is scary. But to me, being an employee is way more scary because now I've decided to put my family's safety in the hands of another person or into a circumstance or into a downsize where I can be replaced because I built up so much value they can't afford me. I don't think there's ever been an easier time to be successful than right now. There's more information to put you on the pathway. And unfortunately, and I only mean this to be factual, but there's less effort than's ever been put in by society to be successful.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership. Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the Franchise Guide.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide, the show where we help corporate executives experience time and financial freedom. Thanks for joining us today. You guys asked for more guests, and we're excited to bring on my good friend, Mike Bahun of Fundraising U. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, and I'm glad you said your name first so I didn't have to take that on. So thanks.
It's G. Everyone calls me G. It's so much easier. It's even harder to spell. I was doing a lot of solo episodes. We've been mixing it up. We've had some awesome guests, and I've been looking forward to this one. If you can give the audience a little bit of background, who Mike is, and we can get into a little bit more on Fundraising U.
Yeah, I'm a coach at heart. Everything inside of what I do every day and everything I'm passionate about is coaching business owners, coaching in sports. And so I'm from Omaha, Nebraska originally, spent the first 35 years there, fell in love with athletics. That was a springboard for our business. Lived in Kansas City and now moved because of the growth of the business. I'm now in Arizona. Been married for 20 years. As of this October 7th, I got twin 16-year-old girls, and I absolutely love coaching people and building teams and being part of that. And I love entrepreneurship. And so this brand is the emergence over time of the right transactional opportunity with the right transformational day-to-day blending. And I think our brand is unique there. So essentially, my passion is coaching people and building up athletics because the net effect is your nephew, my niece, a cousin, whoever you know that gets to be part of sports or activities in schools, we make a difference there.
Love that. So let's dive into Fundraising U. This is definitely a unique type of business. I really like it. It stands out. It checks off a lot of boxes when it comes to, really helping the community, giving back. So talk to us a little bit about the model, how when you started and kind of where you're at today.
Yeah, it started in 1999 when I got released from playing baseball. I went back to my high school and I was handed the keys to run my high school baseball program. And the guy said, you get 24 baseballs and the rest of the money you have to come up with yourself. And so that was my first experience with fundraising. And so as a high school baseball coach in 1999, that's where this started. So 26 years now, Fundraising University has been evolving and emerging to get to this point. And I saw a need. I got excited about the idea of using my entrepreneurial background and being in sports. And the more that I could be around the student athlete and the activity experience, the more I wanted that to happen. And so we started out like a lot of brands. We just had a territory. Then just through meeting coaches that liked what we did, athletes, we started expanding. And then we had 10 locations by 2016. And then I went to a 2-year course called the Wealth Factory. And it's an entrepreneurial finance course. And I went through that, and at the very end of it, the gentleman presented the idea about it being a franchise. And I had never looked at it that way. And I was part of a national network called the C12, and they had tons of franchisees and franchisors. So for 2 years, I studied the idea about the model. And then in 2018, we spent the 2 years to become compliant, real validation, a real operations manual, a real FDD. And we launched in March of 20 as a franchise system. Cool, I was holding this back for this call because I was excited. So those 10 locations in 2016, here this morning, we just brought on our 100th territory.
Wow. That is, that's an amazing feat. I don't know the stat. You may know the stat, but the percentage of franchise companies that actually make it to 100 locations or territories.
I didn't Google this on Wikipedia or anything, but I heard someone present this, that 6.4% what% of all the brands actually get to 100 units.
Yeah, really amazing. That's not an easy feat. And as you're growing, it's helping, right? It's helping all the franchisees with national presence, making the marketing a lot more efficient, economies of scale. So that's awesome. Congrats. So great business model. Obviously, a lot of people, especially if you have families, you don't have to have a family, but the kids, there's always various fundraising. And I feel like there's no consistencies. Sometimes you got inventory, you got to buy stuff, you got to hand it out later. Talk to us a little bit more specific on the model, and specifically, who is that right fit and what is their role in the business?
Yeah, no, you nailed it. When people hear fundraising, we think of right away what we've experienced. The candy bars, the order form for the magazine, just the mercy sale from your nephew, and they never stop. And you're right, there's never consistency. And so the challenge with it was schools do the best they can, but they're not resourced on the business acumen side. And there is no structure to fundraising, right? People see it as a commodity or a product in the way that you just explained it. And that is the first impression people get with this. But the right way to have success is it's a service brand. And so we're approaching this as a service brand. And what I mean by that, what the coaches and the schools and the activities want is they want something fast, and they want obviously the most amount of money they can get. So we do 1 week fundraisers, 100% digital, no order forms, no checks, no cashing. All the products are delivered home. So we've elevated the space to like an Amazon model for sports and activity groups. So we've given the tools to the schools that they don't have, including technology. And so why people come to Fundraising U is because we have a system that's fast, it's safe, we own our own technology. And to this point, this is a certified number in our ERP. We're averaging over $400 per student that engages us, which is 3 times the norm. And most fundraisers are 6 to 8 weeks. And so that's where we sit in a different place. Our ideal franchise owner, really, sometimes people think it's narrow and they think it's sports, or they think it's something they do in addition to their role. And this is a real business that has real margins and a way above average on it. And we have a 92% reoccurring rate on our customer, which is huge. And so our person, first and foremost, is somebody that cares and has high empathy and wants to make a difference. We've seen that come from, we have engineers and lawyers and former NFL players all the way over to teachers and coaches that want to stay in the space but want to have more. And so I think our avatar is somebody who cares, wants to make a difference. They want to control their time a lot more. It is a very friendly lifestyle role. We all know when a school calendar is, so we all know what you're going to be doing and when. And then they also obviously want to determine their own, value by the success of the business. And so we think it's very broad. If you care about people and you want to make a difference and you want to control your time and your value, those people fit inside of that. Right. And then obviously our characteristics of success are no different than any other one, right? You got to be competitive. You got to be coachable. You got to be organized. And in this model, because we're working with the best people in the world, in my opinion, who are coaches, there's got to be true empathy for what's happening.
Absolutely. And there's a need for it, and it just needs to be, I think, simplified. So, why just work with the soccer team when you can work with all the sport organizations and teams? I don't know what percentage that they typically have to fundraise for, because obviously they're getting funds from the school, and this is kind of over and beyond. But there's always going to be a need. This isn't going away, and I think keeping it simple. That's why people are scared to volunteer, is that they don't know what they're getting into, or they're going to have to make millions of deliveries, or have their garage full of peanut M&Ms or something like that. I remember in Little League, we used to just have boxes of candy just piling to the ceiling. So yeah, this is the fits there, and it sounds as if, as you mentioned, the experience necessary isn't needed in fundraising or even working with schools or even being a coach. It's more of just being able to network, relationship building and working with the schools, because naturally, as we were saying, it's going to go from one sport to the next, or one organization. Doesn't have to be just sports, if I understood that correctly.
Yeah, no, there's a simple but great opportunity, and this is the easiest way to see it. So in each school, and the sizes are different, but on average, there's about 25 teachers or coaches in that school that could use help, anyway from basketball to band, choir, music, orchestra, flags, cheer, dance. And so think about the opportunity that you have 25 customers in the same building that all are trying to solve the same problem that they already know they have.
Right.
That's where it's tremendous. And that's why we see it as an outbound service rather than a commodity or product.
Love that. The buzzwords that we hear in the news, that we hear in conversation, and it's affected obviously many people's jobs, is AI. Can you talk about the technology that's being utilized as well as if AI is being invested in any of the technology and making the franchisees more efficient.
You're the merchant, you've got a merchant processor, you've got the agreement, you've got your pro form, anything you can do in the phone in our ERP. And because of that, we're very agile in the fact that we can evolve and change on any level. So AI is a great example of that, right? So when our reps go out and they want to learn to build the conversation to have with coaches, we're using AI and we plug that right in, and they can go out and every one of their conversations is not just recorded so we can give them feedback, but it takes the ideal script and it grades them and gives them next steps. Then that's automated and goes into the CRM and it's all kept track of. So that's one way we're using AI. We also use it for functionality. Same example in our CRM or QuickBooks, the rep just talks to their phone and it populates the customer experience. And I mean, because of the foundation of it having an ERP, we are set up to bring in anything. But on the other side of it, where people are afraid of AI, not as a tool where they're afraid to be replaced, that's why I intentionally built a service, because you're not vulnerable to being as a product or a commodity. And that service can only be executed by a human in person. We have it all the time. People try to provide the product or the technology to the school, and there's very specific dynamics that make it faster, safer, and more money that's going to require somebody there.
In regards, when people look at owning a franchise, they're looking for obviously the system. I call it a business on training wheels. They're getting support, but they're also getting that additional coaching. Not just this is the best way to run your business, or let's get an account together. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the different coaching that's involved in the business to make them extremely effective within their communities?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. It's actually my favorite thing. I've been a coach for 30 years, baseball. I've coached at Ohio State, Creighton. I've been a high school coach. I've ran a youth academy. So I always say I've seen them from 8 when they start. And then I've got 6 guys that I've coached somewhere along the way that were on an opening day Major League Baseball roster. And currently I'm the mental performance coach for the University of Houston baseball. So coaching it's just who we are, and it's what we love to do. I love to build teams and I love to coach people, and I've invested in myself to be developed to do that. And there's constant investment into our leadership to develop their skills. We have anything from a person who's an operations person with franchise experience that's training on the ERP, to a business manager who has been a NASA engineer that's teaching them how to build a pro forma, all the way over to we have a mental performance coach that's a current UFC fighter. We're literally coaching the mindset of an entrepreneur, and we have a physical fitness person that's available to them as well, that's going to help them with a healthy lifestyle. Because we believe that if you build the best person, whether that's baseball, whether that's being an attorney, if you build the best person, you're going to get the best results. And so we have we don't call it training, or we don't call it support. We call it development, because that's an active, ongoing thing. I think it's probably the strength of Fundraising U, outside of the need that's out there, is our passion to coach people.
That is amazing. That I've yet to hear. I mean, franchises are providing support and training, but that level of training, because right, I mean, your physical, your nutrition, your physical activity, your workouts, that all affects everything. It affects your attitude. It affects everything. So that is very unique, and I like to talk about those and have those conversations on how brands are unique from one another. So that is very interesting. I don't hear a lot of that. I'm trying to think, a lot of people listening in on the show, first-time entrepreneurs, or will be first-time entrepreneurs, right? That maybe they're at their job, or maybe they were recently downsized. Maybe they are expecting to be downsized and they're looking for what's next. We talk quite a bit on the show about creating a safety net, being proactive in the event of the next downsizing at the organization, just being proactive in that, hey, maybe I'm not downsized, but I have the ability now to leave my employer because I did build up this business. What advice would you give, so this is more in general terms, to someone that is looking to make it the leap into owning a business, into owning a franchise?
Yeah, so we have a saying that it's the start that stops most people. And the reality of the situation is, all of us, it's a natural, again, on the mental performance stuff, it's a natural instinct that's built into all of us that we want comfort, safety, and predictability. Mm-hmm. You're always going to be giving that up in some way or another. And so for me, people come all the time and say, man, is it scary? What did you do? And I respect and understand that leap to entrepreneurship is scary. But to me, being an employee is way more scary, because now I've decided to put my family's safety in the hands of another person, or into a circumstance, or into a downsize where I can be replaced because I built up so much value they can't afford me. And so I think actually, if you're looking for safety, predictability, I think it is taking a 6 to 8 18-month leap to be an entrepreneur, because not only now are you creating safety by taking activity, you're also building an asset and you're not a liability. And so I would just encourage people. And so that's on the business part. I'll go in a different direction. There's no greater experience in the world than standing on your own and taking care of yourself. You'll never understand what your true potential is unless you get out of that place and get there. And sure, it's scary, but there is absolutely nothing better for me than when I see people get past that point and make that realization that, hey, I can do this on my own. I've earned this. I've done it. And that sense of ownership and pride is one of the coolest things that you can realize.
I get goosebumps as you were saying that, because I absolutely agree. It does take, there is this leap, right? I mean, there's definitely this, what we call it, I guess, uncertainty. You're not going in blind, obviously, you're doing your research, but you want to make sure everything works out. But going back to your original point, working for an employer is, people feel it's safe. It technically isn't. I've been through 3 rounds of layoffs with the last 3 companies prior to leaving corporate life 20 years ago. You never know. And really, my promotions, my commissions, I remember we were in sales, was dictated by my manager, who had another 20 managers above her. And I felt like I had no control. And then not only that, but I got my money, threw it into a 401k plan that I didn't control as well, aside from the percentage and the investments, but I didn't control the mutual funds and what I was investing in. So really, I had my fate in everyone else's hands. Hopefully, crossing my fingers, obviously, that it worked out, because I wasn't making any big decisions at the firm. I worked for one of the largest financial service firms to ever exist. So no control whatsoever, hoping that everyone's making good decisions and following through. But to really experience, like, I'm going to control this. Yes, there's risk. Yes, it could be an emotional roller coaster. I've been there. I'm 20 years in full time as a business owner. The experience, when someone asked me, was it worth it? The answer is yes. I've never missed a soccer game or any of the kids or family events due to work. It is, some people, it's all about money. And I think it's because it's not done intentionally, but money could be measured, right? I have $1 million in the bank. I have a $2 million home. But how do you measure happiness? How do you measure, the quality time you have with kids? You can't really, it's hard to actually measure and put a number on it, if that makes sense. That's the way someone explained it to me years ago. So I think the financials is just because that's how you measure things. So, really, you don't control it. If you are doing well, maybe your income's up, but you still have to show up 50 weeks a year to get your two weeks of vacation. So I hate to talk so much about that, but it comes up over and over again, how business ownership is risky. And I go, you got to change the mind. You got to take a step back and look at it for what it truly is. Anything else?
Well, what I would say there for the listeners, and because you're listening, you're exploring, you're thinking about this. Number one, ask yourself, how long have you been thinking about this? And quick story, my first job when I was playing professional baseball and working on some school, I had met this wonderful man that was a mentor. And every time someone would come into the gym, he wouldn't go around to the treadmills. He wouldn't go to the daycare. He would look them in the eye with care and say, how long have you been thinking about coming in? And they would say 2 years. And he would say, I am going to put all the pressure I can on you to join today, because if you don't, you won't be back for 3 years. Here's what I would say to those listeners that are listening right now. We always look at what happens if we do it, right? So let me challenge you to look at this and reframe this to look at it a completely different way. Let's assume you don't do anything and it's 10 years from now. What happens if you don't do it? What is the cost? What is the cost of risk? What is the cost of your fulfillment? And what is the cost of regret? Because that's the big thing. It's not the money. It's not the perception. You're not going to care in 15 years. I've never met somebody late in life that I've coached me that said, man, I wish I would have done less. Man, and so if that strikes you, you should pick up the phone and call G tomorrow, because the most special thing you can do for yourself is commit to yourself. And the radiance that you have for your family, for your friends, it is unbelievable, the impact you make on people around you.
I couldn't agree more. And I think you nailed it, the way you kind of explained it. Sometimes I'll go into stories and I'll kind of go all over the map, but that you really nailed it. It's really simplifying. I reverse engineer everything. What do you want in life? Forget about the who, forget about the how. What is the ideal situation? Is it working from home? Is it, helping the community, but being home, and being done by 5 so you can go to the the kids' events and family events, or wherever you are, whatever state you are in life. It's really figuring out what it looks like and then figuring out, okay, not only how, but who can help me get there. The how could be a vehicle, it could be a franchise, it could be a startup. Obviously, there's lots of advantages if a franchise is a good fit with the community. Correct me if I'm wrong. I pay a franchise fee today. I get full access to all the all the different various coaching, all the technology, the marketing, the coaching, the training, the systems, everything. It's essentially turnkey. It's basic. It's like you're getting the key. You got this engine. Obviously, you have to follow through with the system, but you got coaches, you got Mike, you got other franchisees in the area truly helping you. So it's not, okay, I got a great system. Now let me go see if it works. You have everyone rooting for you and helping you out. I mean, is that an accurate, if I had to describe Fundraising U and what you're getting, you got that team really rooting you on and supporting you.
Yeah, no, I love baseball, so I'll just simplify it down into baseball terms. You're going to walk into the dugout, your jersey and your equipment are going to be sitting right there. You're going to have somebody that shows you the game plan about how to face that pitcher. You're going to grab the bat. You're going to have somebody coach you all the way along the way. You're going to have a whole team of people supporting you in the dugout. You've got the best quality bat in your hand, and we're going to take you right up to home plate. And then even if it doesn't work out, we're going to absorb you and coach you. So the only thing you have to do is go through the sequence and the experience to take action. To me, that's de-risk everything that you can. And so we do on every single level. That's what you love about franchising, right? Is it's taking the perceived risk of business and it's taking out the main things and it's de-risking it. And all it is, you've got to ask yourself is, do I feel like I have the ability to go out and be successful? Like for us, we know the schools need money. We know what to do to help them. So what's the only thing missing? The person going out and doing the activity. That's an opportunity that is out there for hundreds of franchises. And so I just want to encourage people, because I care about entrepreneurship and I care about seeing people take their chances. Make the move, call G, and it'll change your life.
That's what I tell everyone on the calls. I'm here to help. We're here to figure out which is the right fit. We also want to make sure that if we find you the right fit, we want to make sure that the area that you're looking at is available as well. So that's where we spend a lot of time. As it has to make sense. If you're going to be driving 5 hours to get to the top, it's probably not going to work. That was my, and I say 5 hours specifically because that was my round trip commute into New York City at my last corporate job. So that was not a door-to-door commute. That was not fun. Working an 8-hour day plus 5, that was 13 hours. It was insane. I don't know. I did it way too long. And that was my breaking point where the pain was just, not the hours, but I wasn't going to see the kids when I got home. So, nor, leaving in the morning. So there's a lot there. Any other advice for those that it's, a lot of people I work with, it's like, hey, you know what? I've been watching your show. I've been thinking about it for the last 5 years. They've been simmering on this. Any other advice to really motivate people to take that next action step of contacting a franchise coach or consultant, contacting a brand directly? What other kind of parting advice would you give to someone that's just, they're at that point and they're kind of just stuck?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been an easier time to be successful than right now. There's more information to put you on the pathway. And unfortunately, and I only mean this to be factual, but there's less effort than's ever been put in by society to be successful. And I understand COVID put people at home and it maybe changed the way that we look at things. So there's more opportunities to be successful faster because we've evolved as a society. But there's less people because of maybe some of the success we've all had and that urgency and desire that maybe our parents and grandparents had to build the family. It's not the same. We all know that. We can feel it, right? We're all looking to do something and make it easy. And I don't think it's any easier now to be successful than it ever has been with more options, right? If you just go out, and this is the one thing that's synonymous that I hear with every franchisor that I talk to. If someone will go to work and follow the plan, you're going to be successful. And you just have to ask yourself, do you believe in enough of yourself to make that walk? And if you do, on the other side of that is, there's more money and you own that. But I'll keep going back to it. Like that fulfillment in who you become for your loved ones is the most special part about entrepreneurship.
I love that. It's not just the flashy cars and money and houses. It's the important stuff when you boil it down. I truly.
What are your kids watching, right? What are your kids going to remember you as? Like whenever I get stuck and I'm like every other person, like I draw to that resource. What would I want my kids, if my kids were watching and I made this decision or I didn't make this decision, or if I followed through and I didn't, what would they be gaining from or losing if I didn't make that decision or did make that decision? And that's a special thing. Like you want, your kids are watching you. you.
Yes.
And they're going to take on a lot of what you choose to do. And if you never went for it and you talked about it and you became frustrated, and then if that's unconscious and you complain about working, you're telling your kids that working is bad, right? And so we have to be very aware of the impact that we make for our sphere of influence, and being the one who is the person who takes action. It elevates everybody around you, and
Love
that's
that.
special.
It is. No, it's not what we say, it's what we do. I remember my parents saying that, and I'm like, what does that even mean as a kid? And now looking back, it truly is. It's our actions. It's not just telling people what to do or telling the kids what to do. It's actually following through. And I think that that's extremely important. And I appreciate that more today as an adult than obviously as a kid. What is the website? We're going to put it in the show notes.
Yeah, pretty easy. Just www.fundraising, one word, and then the letter U, fundraisingu.net. You can find us. We're responsive. We'd love to talk about what we do, and we're looking for great people to walk out this great mission. Again, at the end of what we do, sure, there's a great business and there's a great opportunity, but when it's all said and done and everything shakes out, there's a kid like me that grew up in a bad environment that sports or schools changed their life. And there's millions of these kids out there that they need something to be part of. They need what they're missing at home. And we're enriching that opportunity by giving resources to schools and coaches and teachers and these great people who take the time to raise our kids. We're putting tools in their hands to change kids' lives. And if that's something that gets you excited, we'd love for you to help grow that mission.
That's awesome. Well, Mike, I really appreciate you being on the show. I know we've been working on this for a while to get it scheduled, and I really appreciate it that you really brought it home there. Would love if anyone is interested in exploring, learning a little bit more about Fundraising U, seeing if it's a good fit, seeing if it's available in your community, in your area. Give me a shout. Just go to the website, ggthefranchiseguide.com. You know the website. We can discuss that, see if it's a good fit, and talk about next steps. Mike, thanks again. This was awesome. We'll definitely bring you back on the show, get some updates. Maybe we'll do an annual update towards this time next year. I appreciate your time and looking forward to chatting again very soon.
Thank you. Class act all the way around. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.